I think the excitement is over, I would say, two segments, really. It's the growth of the company, meaning the employees and the consumer base, and the growth of the technology. I think the evolution of our technology has been phenomenal, and that's just super exciting.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Do you have employees that come up with excuses or reasons why they weren't able to hit their goals or the KPIs? Well, excuses are really something that you have to be able to manage and lead people through. Because if you train them to always come up with excuses, guess what? They will always find an excuse. I once heard someone say, and I can't remember who it is, but you can either have results or excuses, but you can't have both. Well, you get to choose today. Do you want to have a culture where people are no longer giving you excuses? Well, today is the episode. We're going to be talking with Roy Dekel, the CEO of SetSchedule, amazing company that's grown really astronomically fast, over 2,000% growth. They were looking it up right here, 196 on the Inc. list, and really are a no excuses mentality when they're hiring people, when they're training them, and through the leadership process every step of the way. It is an absolute must for this company. And so you can learn from Roy's approach to leadership here. Now, I will tell you, Roy is a Navy SEAL of his background, so he's really kind of hard set in his ways, and that's really good. And it really will help you understand what no excuses means. But he does it in such an empathetic way when he's kind of correcting someone. You have to see the full interview to get the full picture of it. Thanks for tuning in here to Grow Think Tank. Really excited about sharing this with you. And before you run, I have done so many interviews over the last few weeks. I have such an exciting time to share with you that those interviews have been organized into the 12 core principles of fast growth companies. So all you have to do to get that is go to genehammett.com/worksheet. So you can get the 12 principles, and I've been able to go in there and find which episodes will align to each individual episode. When you subscribe to Grow Think Tank, you will find exactly what you need so that you can move forward. And many of them haven't been published yet, depending on when you're hearing this, but you can tune in to the date that means the most to you. Here's the interview with Roy. Hey, Roy, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking, Jim.
Well, excited to have you here at Grow Think Tank to talk about a no excuses leadership and culture. Before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about SetSchedule.
Well, thanks for first of having me. I'm super excited to be here. SetSchedule, I guess in a 30-second segment, SetSchedule is basically a smart agnostic marketplace technology company, and our core product is basically a marketplace that aggregates tremendous amount of data and leads in the space of real estate. And we aggregate the software aggregate the leads from very well-known publishers such as Homes.com, RealtyTrack.com, Facebook, and Realtor.com, and others. And basically, what happens is the data is aggregated into a smart marketplace that machine learns and creates certain prediction around the data, and basically feeds it to the end user. And our end users are real estate agents, real estate brokers, teams, and franchises that consume the data and then track and manage the data using all of our SaaS products on a daily basis.
For just some context here, how many employees do you have, Roy?
So currently we have in California about 50 staff members, and internationally we have 5 different offices in 5 different countries. So cumulatively we have about 120 employees.
And company's been growing pretty fast. What's the biggest, the big thing that excites you most about all this fast growth?
Oh, wow, that's a tough question. What excites me? There's a plethora of things that excite me. I think the excitement is over, I would say, two segments, really. It's the growth of the company, meaning the employees and the consumer base, and the growth of the technology. I think the evolution of our technology has been phenomenal, and that's just super exciting.
Well, I want to dive into this because I teased the audience and the intro about this no excuses leadership. So what is that to you?
To me, it's everything. No excuse mentality. To me, it's just everything. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to use the F word in your podcast, but I'll be careful. It's so easy to put so much weight in life over everything that comes after the yeah, but, right? I mean, blah, 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 yeah, but. Right? Everything that comes after the yeah, but to us is an excuse. And we made a point in business, in business development, in internal affairs, HR, recruiting, that the yeah, but is not something we're interested in hearing. And we would like to solve and create solutions to avoid and to mitigate the yeah, but, hence the set schedule, more predictability around set schedule, around life. So we take that approach externally with our customers and the approach internally with our staff. And the no excuse mentality is just basically hone in on run your KPIs. You know what your performance requirements are. You know what you committed yourself to. Just do what you committed yourself to. And reach those numbers or reach the goals. And if you cannot, figure out why, and let's do it the right way. Let's fix it and let's make it work. And that's just something that, I mean, that's kind of like maybe the SEAL-minded mind in my history, right? It's the mentality of the boot camp. It's the mentality of the military of just do it the right way and get it done. Don't focus any energy on making excuses.
So, we have all heard this, that you have to lead by example, and this is just natural for you because you've grown up through the SEAL leadership programs. Do you have to catch yourself every once in a while when you make an excuse, even at home?
Yes, rarely though. I'm not to be cocky about it, right? I think that I get more of the listen, you're not in SEALs anymore. You're not an officer in the military anymore. Don't expect everybody to be, to go through this boot camp anymore. More so than me stopping myself saying, okay, I'm making an excuse. But I mean, truthfully, like every person, yes, there are moments where I think about making an excuse and I stop myself and say, there is no yet but in my vocabulary.
Well, one of the challenges you have when you think so doggedly about something like this, no excuses mentality, is how do you get others to adapt it? So do you remember the kind of the steps that you took to really ensure that everyone in the organization had a no excuses mentality?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the key components I think I'm most proud of, our human resources and the way that we focus our efforts in correct recruiting, in cherry picking. And look, I mean, we're a startup, right? I mean, we probably going to lose against the budget of the Fortune 500 companies, especially in regions like California, Southern California, etc. Right? But we obsess over picking the right individuals and treating them right and building right culture. So for us, I mean, it starts with obviously the human resources team and the recruiting. When individuals come to the company, there's no single individual in a company that didn't pass a very comprehensive assessment. And if they pass the assessment regimen, they actually get a complete outline of bootcamp training and corporate training and basically personal development path, where we know that we're going to just lead the culture and really focus in personal development until they reach the point of success. I mean, we even have a pin ceremony where we kind of like give the insignia after a certain amount of time in a company and graduation when they hit a certain benchmark. So we really mimic the approach of Officers Academy, of personal development in the military, of SEAL training and others to really bring the right team members. And again, I mean, we're not huge. We're at 120 employees internationally and 50 in California. We're growing, but we still have the ability to bring the right team members to the company, and that's what we focus on.
So I heard the part about, selecting the right people and cherry picking. Do you give them training before you hire them, or is that after the hiring?
No, that the training is absolutely after the hiring.
Okay.
We really focus in the first part of the assessment is really pre-screening and psychological, basically psychology-based interviews. And once we identify, we send a company, we can train you on knowledge, we can train you on we can develop experience together, we can give you the tool, the technology, we can do all of that, right? But we cannot train smart, right? We cannot develop smart. So, I mean, meaning that the DNA is the DNA, the capabilities are the capabilities. And that's what we screen for first before we bring you to the...
So you're hiring for a culture fit before a skill fit.
Absolutely.
And that probably makes it easier for people to adapt to the no excuses, because some of the pre-screening is filtering out those that have an excuse-minded approach to everything.
Absolutely. We have this kind of like internal line that we use. We would hire on passion and drive and desire before experience and knowledge.
which is kind of goes back to that DNA part, like the natural person. And I think a lot of fast growth companies, because I talk to a lot of people interviewing on here, really do that. The ones that are struggling in all of business hire based on, do they have 3 years of that experience? Okay, yeah, you must be able to fit into our culture, which rarely happens.
No, no, it rarely happens, and there's a plethora of challenges with experience, right? I mean, the desire for a certain amount of pay and the perceived notions of what they're entitled to receive, and it makes it very difficult for a startup that really struggles with so many elements of business development at the beginning, where it just makes sense to focus on culture, integrity, bringing the right people. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example in the engineering side. I mean, every engineer that we brought was just a winner. I mean, our head engineer is a phenomenal individual that came in with, short, I mean, not too much of experience, if you will. And I mean, I could be happier with the results, right? I mean, the product speaks for itself, as they say. And it's just a function of culture and desire.
Well, I want to go into, after this training, because there's certain training that you take them through, like a leadership academy through the military, but how do you reinsure that people know that there's a no excuses mentality? I mean, is this something that happens in meetings? Is it one-on-ones? Is it everything you do?
It's everything we do, first off, right? It's everything. It's everything we do. Everything we do all the time, anytime, anywhere, right? But it definitely, I mean, fundamentally, it starts with human resources, right? It starts with the pre-screening of the interviews at the level 1. We have about a series of 3 interviews for every position in the company, so you have to go through that process. And it starts with step 1. Human resources understand that mindset, and that's what they're looking for when they're obviously cultivating or pre-screening. Then when the hiring manager interviews, they get the same amount of medication, if you will, or what's the term? But basically the same amount of culture warning, if you will, before they get selected. And again, obviously all the interviews usually place after the assessment. So once they get to training, usually people know what to expect. Now, we also understand that many people during the pre-screening process and the assessment process don't retain 100% of the data. So when they get to training, every training really focuses first on culture, history, background, and vision. And then it goes to knowledge, and that's how we break down a bootcamp training.
Hold on for a second. Roy just talked about focus on culture. Now, I mentioned some questions inside here, but I want to make sure we really put a spotlight on this whole idea of culture before skills. If you have a culture that you're really trying to develop, you want to make sure every person that comes in has the same values around the culture that you do and that the other team members do, because those values will bind them together. This doesn't mean they all think the same. They don't have to be the same color or the same gender or the same religion even. You really want diversity, but you want people that have the same values at their core. And every smart company I know that's growing fast has put a stringent hiring practice on bringing people in that have that core values in line. So I say this to you, definitely want to make sure that you're putting culture before skills. You can always develop the skills, but you can't teach someone things like passion and drive and honesty and integrity. So Roy, my mind is going to ask the question that maybe the audience is thinking right now. Like, say you're sitting down with an employee that's been there for 6 months and you hear that, yeah, but what is your first thought? Do you stop them right there, or do you let them go on and like let them catch themselves?
So I'm gonna answer it differently, because I'm extremely proud of my team. I mean, the team is amazing. I love the team that works for the firm, and it's just like I'm a proud young dad. But anyways, the reason I'm saying that is actually when our staff members reach the benchmark of 6 months, I think that the amount of the yeah buts usually diminish to pretty much virtually nothing, right? I mean, to stay here for 6 months and to go through the challenge of the business, the challenges of the market, the challenges of consumer satisfaction, the challenges of all of that, product adoption, right? If you survive 6 months, the ratio of the bot gets really low. But if that happens, we like mirrors. We just basically take the mirror approach, and we turn around and say, just say it again, and tell me what you're trying to achieve by saying that. I mean, what's your end goal? How do you want me to react in a way that will satisfy what you're saying? And usually when you kind of like take this virtual mirror and you start to say, well, blah, 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 yeah, but you know what, I guess it makes sense. I'm just making an excuse. That's not going to help me overcome the objective, right? Or reach the objective. And that's how we have it.
That's a really strong way to do that, because I feel like you're being very supportive and letting them really see it for themselves, and that will ingrain it quicker. Is that what you see out of that?
Absolutely.
This whole showing someone the mirror approach, if you probably use this in other areas as well. When you think about, setting goals and things like that, and people, maybe they're close to achieving it and they want to come up with some excuse or some reason why, do you just not listen to these, or do you ask them to reframe it into what do we need to do next so that you ensure that they hit those goals?
So we listen to every excuse. Not too many of them, but we'll listen. But the approach that we take outside of the mirror, obviously, is we take the simplistic approach of KPIs, right? Take the key performance indicators, and kind of like, I mean, it's a bad analogy, but kind of like taking it to the medicinal world, right? Cancer treatment or identifying a major disease. You go through very basic scans to understand what's the source of the disease or what's the source of the challenge and the problem. And then, so by elimination, kind of like we take the same approach by eliminating the positive aspects and focusing on what the negative challenge is. If it's for sales, for example, we have a simplistic, basically 4 KPI path, and we'll look at the 4 KPIs. We cross out, and I promise you that you'll find the one KPI or the one indicator that identifies the path or the challenge for this current month or for your quarter, right? That's in sales. And the same goes for, obviously, development. If we have issues with retention, we have issues with certain user engagement and analytics, and we identify that by just eliminating the items that work well, and we focus on stuff that doesn't work well, and that's what we attack, and that's what we fix.
Well, I appreciate you going through that with me. I want to kind of take a break here and say, you've been growing fast. You've been developing this company, hiring these people, and building a leadership team. Is there any one mistake that kind of stands out as something that you made, but it led to something bigger, led to a transformation inside your own leadership? Well,
there are a lot of them. There are many mistakes that we made. So I'll own my mistakes, and I'll be very proud of sharing them, right? If I need to think about a couple major ones, I think that one of the key mistakes for us was kind of like technical, is that a technology, are we going to roll out a user interface first, or are we going to build out the sales and distribution model first and work with our end consumer users, which are the professional licensed individuals in the space of real estate? If we're going to go and sell the product first, and we obviously wanted to go, because we're very much of a go forward mindset company, as you probably figured out by now. Right. So we moved forward, and the tech was always trailing. And that was mistake number one. It created some friction points with the platform, and understanding the agnostic marketplace, and understand the value proposition of the SaaS products. So that was number one. And that also created a certain hindrance on priorities in recruiting and building a development team versus the sales team, et cetera. That would be one mistake that we mitigated. And the second one, I would say, in early years, we went through, I'll call it kind of like for a short period of time, through the lip service hiring process, meaning, I'm a go-getter, I can do it. I mean, I've done great in school, I adapt fast to new technology, I can study everything, blah, 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 blah. And we realized, if you don't go through assessment regimen, if you don't really go through the regimented process of screening, you're probably going to have a huge churn, you're going to probably fail, and you're going to probably hire wrong. And we fixed it pretty quickly.
Let's pause for a moment. Roy just said something that I don't know if you caught on, but he said, as a leader, he must own his mistakes. Now, I want to ask you, as a leader, are you truly owning your mistakes, or are those just words that you would say? If you own your mistakes, you truly are vulnerable enough to share with your team that you made a mistake. It takes courage to have that level of vulnerability, and you have to be that kind of leader if you expect it of others. You've got to lead by example. So own your mistakes if you want your employees to own their mistakes. If you go first, they will learn how to do this, and so that you can create that ownership culture that you want so much. And that's the reason why now you have such a stringent focus on hiring.
Yep, absolutely.
A lot of experts will say that if that first release is not ugly, you've waited too long. So maybe that wasn't a mistake by pushing it. And I know it's hard because I've been there too. Looking back at that, was it just a hard period, or would you think it was really a mistake?
I think it was a mistake. I'll go extreme. I'll go extreme. We like to criticize ourselves. I mean, sometimes it doesn't seem that way, and some people may not see it that way. But we criticize ourselves daily, and we fix, repair, and change daily, and we pivot daily, right? I think that it was a mistake because our target demographic for our core product now, and we're rolling out 3 new different products now. The core product was really real estate centric, real estate agents, brokers, teams, franchises, and this guy worked hard. I mean, we're talking about business development here. I mean, our target demographic is the biggest selling community in the world, right? I mean, real estate licensed individuals, and they grind daily, right? So to come out with a product that is half-baked is wrong. And we obsess over execution, and we obsess over, obviously, perfection when we can, right? And we understand that perfection is a long-term play. And for me, because of that, I'm kind of like harsh on ourselves and I say this is a mistake. This was a mistake, but obviously, I mean, the amount of products that we have out there and the way that technology operates now speaks for itself, and that's where we have the growth that we have.
Well, Roy, I really appreciate you being here, sharing, part of your journey as a leader of a fast growth company. Being at Growth Think Tank really is an honor to have you. So thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me, Chief.
Wow, I just love that interview because he talked about so many things that are really important inside of our leadership. A lot of my clients know that I will say this to you all the time. You get what you tolerate. So if you tolerate excuses, you will tend to get more excuses. If you absolutely won't tolerate them, then people will learn not to give excuses. They will learn to increase their level of activity, increase their level of focus, increase their level of production and conversion, whatever it may be. They will change their behavior because they know you won't accept excuses. I love this interview. If you want to create a culture of ownership, a no excuses part of that is really one of the most important elements to you as a leader to begin with. Well, again, this is a great episode to share with you and share with others. So if you're getting much out of these interviews, make sure you take a moment, share it with one person. We're not looking to grow really big by numbers. We want the right people tuning in to Grow Think Tank. So make sure you share this message with one person. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.